There's this insanely viral YouTube video where a guy named Coyote Peterson lets himself get stung by a cow killer. And based off of his reaction, you can tell this insect has one of the most painful stings in the entire world. Now, normally you would want to stay away from these things, but I just found a website that will sell you one as a pet. They say this thing's called a cow killer because its sting is powerful enough to kill a literal cow. What could go wrong? Let's just buy this at the cart. So in this video, I'm gonna build it at home, show off everything about keeping a pet cow killer, which means yes, I am going to let it crawl on my arm. If it stings me, I am going to be in so much pain. But until it got delivered to my house, I got out the enclosure and a bunch of desert rocks to build its home. To start, I stacked each of the rocks in this pattern that would create a canyon look in here. Now, the reason I bought these types of rocks is because they look like the rocks in real canyons. But yeah, because they look so realistic, these rocks were very expensive. Yes, that's actually how much they costed. We don't talk about that. You see, cow killers live in deserts in the wild, which sort of makes sense because all of the most deadly and painful animals live in the desert. Anyways, to finish the canyon look in this enclosure, I got some of this excavator sand stuff. You see, if I add this bowl of water to this tub of the sand and, pour it in there like that, then just go and mix it up with my hand. And after a minute, it turns it into this clay substrate, which I can kind of make into a nice ball of, poop. Yes, it's kind of nasty. But basically, using this clay, I'm gonna go and stick it in between each of these rocks to kind of glue them together, and we're gonna have a nice completed canyon look in here. Anyways, after putting that all over the rocks and letting it dry, it ended up looking pretty good. But the next step to finishing this desert is, of course, to put some sand in here. Because, deserts, they have to have sand. But before putting the sand in, first I've got these big bags of black rocks. And apparently if I scatter this around the floor before putting the sand in, it should help absorb any extra moisture, and that'll prevent any mold from growing in this desert. Next up, I got out another container and filled it with some sand and some of this soil to make the desert substrate. Basically, the reason why I'm using this as the substrate is because when I put the plants and cactuses inside, this soil is going to provide a lot of nutrients, so they're able to grow nice and tall, and we get a fully fledged desert in here. So I went and poured that on top of all of the carbon and pushed it up against the rocks to make the desert floor. But as you can see, this doesn't really look like a desert because of how much dirt I added to that substrate, so I quickly poured a thin layer of just normal sand on top so it would look like a desert once again. Alright, this is already starting to look like a good cow killer enclosure, but to make it even better, it's time to add in some plants and decorations. First, for the decorations, and that basically just means wood and rocks, because that's pretty much all deserts have, to be honest. They're pretty boring. First of all, I put some of this spider wood around the tank randomly and even used some of it to make little bridges across the canyons that the cow killer would be able to walk on. Then I got some of these longer sticks and put them on the side of the canyon to make it look like there were roots growing from it or something. Yeah, pretty cool. But I did end up getting two cool decorations, which are right here. The first of which is these little logs, which are called choya wood. And the reason these are a cool decoration is because choya, it's a cool word to say, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, and also they're good because they have all these little holes so the cow killer can run inside and then just hide and make a home in there. So yeah, that's good. And for the second cool decoration, I got a live scorpion. I'm just kidding. It's actually not a live scorpion. Oh, it's a plastic toy scorpion, but it's a desert, so I think it'll fit pretty well. I'm just gonna put it right in this empty spot there. Take a look at that. Looks pretty deserty. Now for the plants. And as you know, not many things can live in the deserts since it's so dry. So our only options are succulents and cacti, which of course are able to absorb tons of water. But I don't have any of those types of plants, so I gotta go to the store. I ended up finding this little collection of plants. Dang, look at all these succulents. Wait, this is actually exactly what I need. Okay, let me just pick out a few of these. And of course, let's get some cactuses like down here, or cacti. I don't know how to say it plural. So I picked out a nice selection, and while I didn't get as good of a deal as that comment said, it still only costed like $20 for all these plants, which is pretty good. Anyways, to plant these desert plants, I shook off all the excess dirt and planted just the roots in the sand. And in no time, it was done. But the final step to finishing the cow killer's home is insects. And I've got two different species of insects I want to put in here. First of all, you already know I've got springtails, the extremely tiny white creepy bug things. And yeah, there's just like 1,000 of them in here. All these tiny little white things moving. Those are all springtails. But these are extra important in a desert enclosure like this because every now and then I'm gonna have to go and spray each of the plants down and water them, and the springtails will make sure to eat up any extra mold that grows because of all the moisture. So yeah, they're pretty useful. Let's just dump these guys in here. Yeah, pretty good.
And second of all, I've got these things, which are mealworms.
But the real reason why I'm gonna put these guys in the enclosure is because I'm kind of interested to see if the cow killer is gonna go and just sting them, to be honest. I don't really know if the cow killer eats insects like this, but I guess I'm gonna figure out with you guys once we put them in here.
Well, this desert enclosure is now complete, and that means I gotta get the pet cow killer. Yeah, I don't even know why I get pets like this.
Well, guys, it took a long time for this to get delivered, and I don't even know why it says live fish if there's a cow killer in here. But anyways, I guess it's time to bring this thing inside, show off exactly what a pet cow killer is like, and of course, let it crawl on my arm. I know I keep bringing this up, but seriously, if I get stung by this thing, I'm going to be in this much pain. Like, just look at this guy's face. I just don't want to do that. But anyways, let's just go inside and open this.
So I cut the tape and got the container out that supposedly the bug was inside.
Okay, so this is not so promising. It's just a clear plastic container with a paper towel. Well, I guess let me just carefully take the lid off and, okay, please, hopefully nothing jumps out at me.
I very carefully used some tweezers to move the paper towel into another container. And then I carefully moved around that paper towel to try and reveal the cow killer.
Oh, I think I see it in there. Wait, do you see that? Hold on, look at this. Oh, that's the cow killer. This may not look like it, but this thing right here is one of the most painful stinging insects, or not even insects, just animals in the entire world.
But I couldn't just move it straight inside of the new enclosure because first I had to build the rest of it on so it wouldn't be able to escape. Because if it did, that would be really bad.
Okay, well, it's right here, so I'm just gonna risk it for the biscuit and pick it up super carefully. And drop it. Okay, you're in your new home. Enjoy it.
Soon enough, the bug crawled out of its paper towel and started to explore around his new home. But considering the cow killer spent the last week in that shipping box, it's probably pretty hungry. So I wanted to get it fed right away.
And one of the things it said it would eat is adult insects. And if you remember, I did put mealworms in here. Let me see if I can find one. Here we go. There's just a mealworm in the sand right there. But I just want to bring this right over to the cow killer and see if it reacts if I just drop it right next to it. Let's see what happens here.
Now, right away, the cow killer noticed the mealworm and went straight up to it. But while it even started to crawl on top of the mealworm, it didn't really seem to care at all that it was there. In fact, it kind of just put its mouth on the sand where the insect jelly was just sitting to try and suck up any of the last sugar that was there. So yeah, I guess they don't really eat insects.
I'm gonna feed them some of this insect jelly food, which I usually feed to my crickets. But basically, it should replicate the nectar that they find in flowers in the wild.
So I opened up the pack of jelly and put it right in front of the cow killer. Within about a minute, it must have picked up the scent because it crawled right up to it and just stayed there looking like it was eating it.
Yo, look at the cow killer. It just put its face straight up to the jelly and is just devouring it, I'm pretty sure.
And yeah, he really just sat there for 20 whole minutes eating it, and I eventually just took the jelly away from him because I didn't want him to eat too much.
Anyways, all right, it's the nighttime and I got my mom in here. Say hi.
Hi.
Now, the reason I got my mom in here is because I was gonna need her to film the cow killer when it walked on my arm. But first, I had to show her the bug.
Can you just guess what's inside real quick, based off the desert?
Some sort of bug.
Yeah, it is a bug. Actually, you can probably see it. It's in this little container right here. Basically, if I take this off, it's this little red creature bug thing, and it's called a cow killer because they say its sting is painful enough to be able to kill a literal cow.
What?
Yeah, so
Are you
basically,
serious?
the reason I brought you in today is because I just want you to film me, basically letting it crawl on me, because I was just thinking, you know, like I just want to bond with it.
That sounds like a really bad idea.
So first, I'm going to start by picking up its abdomen with these tweezers. Now, don't worry, this doesn't actually hurt the bug because it has a super strong abdomen. It's just basically like a skeleton. Oops, I dropped it.
But eventually, I picked it up again and put it inside of the container.
Okay, you got a good shot. So basically, I'm just going to start by putting this like this. I don't want to get it mad when it crawls out. I just want to let it crawl out itself.
And this will kill a cow.
Well, yeah, that's what they say, but I don't think it actually can. All I know is it's super painful.
It didn't take long until the cow killer got to the edge of the container and then stepped onto my arm.
Now we just hope and pray this doesn't sting me right now. So I don't want to make any sudden movement because then it's going to know I'm bad and it's going to try to sting me.
Now, I had to let it stay on me for at least a minute. So in the meantime, I just tried to talk with my mom to distract me.
What is the purpose of this? You want to bond with your pet?
Yeah, because everyone bonds with their dog and stuff. I just want to bond with my cow killer. You see how its sting is just like crawling along me? It could accidentally sting me at any moment.
At this point, it started to look more aggravated, and as soon as the timer hit 60 seconds, I put the container in front of it, hoping it would crawl in. But it ended up crawling around it onto the side of my arm, where it eventually fell off onto the table. So I quickly scooped it up back into its container.
We got it. That was actually really nerve-wracking. I don't know
if I was saying a lot, I was actually like, my heart was pounding like 200 beats a second. But now I could say I've bonded with a cow killer.
What are you gonna name it?
The cow killer.
The cow killer.
That's a cool name.
Now, I didn't get stung today, but I'm gonna have this pet for a while. So if you guys really want to see it, we've all seen piranhas in movies depicted as these crazy evil fish that will eat anything they lay their eyes on. But despite how deadly they're made out to be, for some reason, you can legally buy them to keep as a pet. So I'm gonna buy 6 piranhas, build them a home, and test to see if they're actually as vicious as the movies made them out to be. Meaning, yes, I will be putting my hand inside of their tank. What could go wrong? Let's just buy this thing. And so literally the next day, the delivery van dropped off the package. I cut open the tape on the box that had the piranhas inside. Oh shoot, bro. There's literally piranhas right under my hand. Let me take this bag out. And oh, I cannot believe I'm gonna be keeping these as pets. What the heck? Thankfully, every single piranha had survived the shipping, so I put all 6 of them into the tank. But when I put them in, I realized they were barely moving and definitely not acting like normal vicious piranhas. And look, I can literally drop a cricket into the water, and usually they would go crazy immediately eating that up. But check it out, no reaction at all. You see, the reason they're not moving is because they need a way bigger tank with all the right stuff inside. So I got out a new tank and filled it with 100 pounds of sand. We gotta do this because, of course, the first step is creating the floor and decorations. To continue this process, I started to use these sort of thin sticks and use a hot glue gun to hang them from the top of the enclosure. You see, these piranhas that I bought are red-bellied piranhas, which are supposedly the most vicious species, and they live in the Amazon River where there's all these roots and stuff hanging in the water. So that's what I'm trying to recreate in here with this. Anyways, next up, it was time to use even more wood. You see, this time I want to stack up some thicker wood to make it look like a massive tree trunk is growing from out of the water. So I actually took the wood out and used some water-safe spray foam to connect all the pieces together with some branches coming off of them. And then once all the spray foam and stuff on it has dried, we just plop it in there like that. And boom, there we go. Check it out. You can even see the roots and stuff. It's pretty cool. It looks like a tree, but there's still a bit more decorations we have to put inside of here. First of all, you guessed it, just some more wood randomly scattered around, but then some rocks because pretty much every Amazon riverbed has them. And finally, some pebbles like this, which I dropped around the enclosure, and some even tinier little pebbles, which I also dropped around the enclosure, which makes the sand across the whole thing look a little more realistic. Well, I'd say this is a pretty good start to the base of the tank, but now it's time for the fun part. Let's go get some aquatic plants for this. Okay, I'm at Petco, and I'm not gonna lie, the aquatic plant section is looking a little lousy today. Pretty much all these plants are like dead. Bro, no way I'm paying $10 for a dead stick with a little leaf. But let's buy all the ones here that are alive like this. So I picked out all the good plants and even found this little cool vine one, which of course I had to get to. So I drove home and got all the plants out. Oh man, this is already the most plants I've gotten for a video, and that's not even including this big bag of leftover plants Petco had. Anyways, I went and put each of the plants in the sand across the tank and filled it up with a bit of water. That way the roots of the plants could stay nice and moist while we continued building. Oh, and I almost forgot the most important part, this vine thing. Let's just put this across the branches like that, and oh yeah, check it out. It looks like a vine. Well, next up, as you can see, I've left this little area here empty. That's because I want to build a graveyard here with a ton of skulls and stuff because apparently piranhas are deadly. So I drove out to buy some. Okay, I'm at PetSmart first, and I found this skull decoration, so I'm gonna get that. Ooh, and they got a tiny little animal skull. I'm definitely gonna get that too. So I bought those and a couple more decorations with skeletons on them. Then after getting home, I put some of the larger skulls around in the sand. I even replaced some of the rocks in the back with them so this place would look extra spooky. Then with these tiny little skull beads, I'm gonna go and plant them around in the sand, just like that. Then I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of sand on top so it looks like they've been buried. And there we go, check the graveyard out. It actually looks pretty good. Bunch of skulls on the floor, all those other big skulls. Yeah, I like it. And now finally, to finish this tank, we gotta do the DIY technologies. And for the first one, I started to set up across the whole back of the tank. You see, right now, this stuff does nothing. But once I fill up the entire tank with some cycled water, which took a long time because of how big it was, check out what it can do. All right, now if I go and plug in these pumps, as you can see, it starts to make bubbles at the back of the enclosure. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But basically this little air pump just blows air into this tube, which goes into there. But what I could actually do is unattach that and just blow into this myself to make bubbles. That was cool. Anyways, the last technology is this little fish. I'm just kidding. I've actually already shown this in a video before. So what I've got is the upgraded version. Yeah, this one's way bigger and way cooler. Which, as you can see, if I just go and put it in the water like this, it starts to swim around like a normal fish.
And yeah, I just think it'd be funny if I maybe tested the piranhas to see if they try to eat it or something. So I sucked the liquid up into the syringe thing and brought it over to the tank.
Okay, this might seem kind of complex, but it's actually genius. You see, I can basically squirt some of this around in the water and it just spreads the scent around. And what I'm gonna do is attach it to the side of the enclosure, and whenever I want to get the piranhas mad and in hunting mode, I just squirt a little bit of this out the end and it'll make them go absolutely crazy.
So I attached that to the side of the tank with some glue, and then it was done. And now, anyways, this tank is now complete. And speaking of the piranhas, it's time to get them inside.
Okay, I'm gonna try my best to not get bit here. Oh no.
So I grabbed the temporary tank they were in and brought it over to their new home so I could scoop them out.
Okay, they definitely look more aggressive than the first time I did this, but I'm just gonna carefully scoop one guy out just like that. Oh shoot, he's mad, but I'm just gonna put him into the new tank, and there you go. Be free, my friend. New home.
So I did that same process with the other 5, and there we go. The piranhas were in their new home. And as you could guess, immediately they packed up like piranhas do and looked as though they were already on the hunt for food once again.
Well, these piranhas look pretty hungry, I'm not gonna lie, or maybe piranhas are just always hungry. So now I'm gonna feed them. Now, if you remember at the start, the piranhas wanted nothing to do with the crickets, but let's see how they'll react now that they're in this new tank.
So I dropped in just one, and because it was just floating there, I grabbed it with tweezers to show the piranhas. Instantly, you could see they picked up the memo that this was alive, and they sort of started to nibble it like the mealworms. But not even a single piranha actually took a big enough bite to eat this cricket.
Okay, that was pretty bad. I guess these piranhas just don't really like insects, so that's why I'm gonna rapid fire the next 2 off. Here you can see I've got salmon and ground beef, which is a lot more smelly. They better like this.
I started by waving the salmon around in the water until the piranhas noticed it, and once a few started to come up and nibble it, I accidentally dropped it into the sand where all the rest of the piranhas came swimming up. They huddled around it like a pack of hyenas and started to actually take little chunks out of the piece for them to eat. So I did the same thing with the ground beef and held it in the water. And this time the piranhas were even more interested, and instantly the entire pack huddled around it and took turns taking their bites out of it. I even noticed that the scraps of it had fallen onto the floor and were getting surrounded by the piranhas too.
The first of which being mealworms.
And before feeding them the mealworms, if you remember, I had this pipe with the delicious juice inside, which I went and squirted inside to let the piranhas know it was feeding time. And as you could guess, they immediately started to go up and eat it, which kind of made a mess, but yeah, they were loving it.
Oh my gosh, do you see that? They're all gathering around a little area where I just put it in.
So now that they were ready, I dropped in the mealworms and one started to sink down. 2 of the piranhas noticed it and kind of took nibbles at it, but they were kind of just playing around with it more than they were actually eating it. And that same thing kept happening with most of mealworms, but that was until I saw this, where 3 of them took turns devouring it up, and yeah, this one actually got eaten.
Okay, well, mealworms, they loved that so much, but that doesn't mean I gotta do my hand now. I said I would do it in the intro, so, you know, let's just do it. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Start the timer. Let's see how long I can keep it in here.
Right away, nothing really happened because none of the piranhas were near my hand. But I knew this was kind of cheating, so I moved my hand closer, where right away, one sort of noticed me and actually started to chase my hand as I moved it away to avoid getting bit. So of course, I moved my hand back over to the pack, where some of them definitely got sort of close to biting me, but they were nowhere near as aggressive as they were towards the beef. You see, it's actually a common misconception that piranhas are evil towards humans like all the movies say.
But to be honest,
these are mealworms, and they're known for their ability to eat almost anything. But what if you put 10,000 mealworms on a whole watermelon? How quickly would they completely eat it and turn it to mush despite its massive size?
yeah, I don't know. So that's why I bought 10,000 mealworms.
Yeah, this is the most nastiest thing I've ever done. I put the bread inside, and as you could probably imagine, the mealworms wasted no time to start swarming this thing, and of course, they then started to consume it. If you pay attention to right here in specific, you can see how they just devour a massive hole right through the center of the bread. If they're doing this to the tiny piece of bread, imagine what they do to the full watermelon. Anyways, literally after only 4 hours, this bread was hollowed out with mealworms and just had holes all over it. But this is literally nothing compared to the other time lapses I'll be showing off in the video. I have tons of stuff planned.
I'm not gonna waste any time, and I'm gonna record some stuff right away. But before we do the watermelon, I actually want to start with something a lot more interesting. This thing.
Yeah, this is literally
literally a piece of styrofoam. And you're probably wondering right now, what the heck, TerraGreen? Why are you feeding this to the worms? Well, it's because mealworms have an absolutely insane special ability, and it's actually that they can somehow digest styrofoam. Yeah, talk about the lamest special ability ever, but I just had to get a time up showing this off, and immediately these dudes started to completely climb all over the styrofoam, completely covering it. I don't know why mealworms are one of the only animals that can eat styrofoam. It's honestly kind of weird, and the craziest part about this time lapse is if you look right down here, you can literally see the moment when the mealworms decided to start chewing a massive hole through the side of the styrofoam, so they could literally crawl inside to eat more. It's super cool. And anyways, after leaving the styrofoam in here all night, I shook off all the mealworms so we could see the damage that was done, and holy, look at this thing. First of all, that hole the mealworms shoot through the side is nasty, and it's still filled to the brim with worms. Ugh. Then just this whole top part has bite marks all over it, and this thing is probably hollowed out and just filled with worms. Nah. And yeah, if you're wondering about the other pieces of styrofoam, basically the exact same thing happened to them, and they got obliterated. It's safe to say these mealworms are hungry.
Now, I think it's about time we get out the watermelon so we can do the final time lapse, and I got a knife here so I can go and cut this thing up so we can reveal the nice juicy red part.
So yeah, that's exactly what I did, and I just put the watermelon straight into this tank so we could get this test started right away. Now, you already know the mealworms started to, of course, climb all over the watermelons right away. Mealworms love watermelons because, of course, they're super sugary and sweet, but they're also made out of 92% water, meaning the mealworms can just get super hydrated. Now, it's so crazy because you can see how nice and bright red this watermelon is now. Well, it only took a couple hours until that bright red completely started to fade as thousands of mealworms started to climb all over the watermelon, nibbling tiny little pieces out of it. And yeah, this all happened in the time span of only 12 hours. Yeah, I literally just left this overnight.
Okay, I just checked on this for the first time since waking up, and first of all, this smells absolutely disgusting. But look at this. This was a bright red color like 10 hours ago, but it's like completely rotting because of what these mealworms are doing to it. This is nasty, and they're making all these tiny little holes in it. Nah.
Anyways, I moved the tank to the floor to continue the rest of the time lapse. But as you can see in this footage, as I continued recording, the mealworms weren't nearly as interested in the watermelon. Pretty much none of them were even eating it anymore. I mean, it does look pretty rotten, to be honest, so I guess it would make sense to why they don't want to eat it. But yeah, I decided to just stop the time lapse since they weren't eating it anymore, and I came back 24 hours later so I could see the full results of what the watermelon looked like.
What the heck? This is so nasty. Is that mold growing on the watermelons? Oh my gosh.
But actually, to my surprise, when I took a look under the watermelons, there was massive holes chewed through the green shell part. And like this watermelon here had so much chewed through this part. So yeah, I guess the mealworms really were eating the watermelon, but I guess it just wasn't showing up on the time lapse because it was happening under where we could see it. Dang, that's actually insane that they could eat so much.
Anyways, hopefully you guys learned something new. To get footage of them digging out those tunnels along the glass, well, this alien creature is actually able to do the same exact thing. Let me show you how.
Yeah, so this thing's called a vinegaroon, and it's the same one from a few videos ago on my channel. But you see, I call them an alien because, I mean, just look at them. They look extremely weird, and they have these claws at the front of their body that actually allow them to dig.
Yep, and for this guy, as you can see, I filled this tank up with a bunch of clay. But if you look, I actually left a hole on the side of the glass empty. That way, when I go and fill this place up with dirt, the vinegaroon won't be able to make a hole anywhere in this dirt other than that hole I made in the clay right on the side of the glass there.
Now, anyways, after getting the dirt in, I wasted no time to put the vinegaroon inside. Now, immediately, this alien creature wasn't exactly super interested in digging. He was kind of just trying to climb out. But you see, that's because there's actually a few things I have to set up in here to make this guy want to dig quickly. First of all, I put this water dish in here, and then I started to use my finger to dig out a little tunnel under the water dish. Now, when the vinegaroon comes over here, he'll find the little entrance to the burrow I made, and when he's ready to dig, he'll know where to start. So guys, I just went and set up my time-lapse camera in another room so we could observe what these creatures do when no one's watching. And yeah, during the first few hours, since it was technically still day, you can see he was very active amongst the top
section, still trying to escape. But the second it hit nighttime, this dude went down to the burrow section and he started to dig up like a straight up drill. Nah, let's see that on an instant replay. That's actually pretty cool. You can literally see the pile of dirt up here grow as the vinegaroon digs out all the dirt from the tunnel. I think this is some of the clearest footage ever caught of these creatures digging. It's pretty cool to watch. Well, dang, now that this guy dug this tunnel, you're probably wondering why they actually make these tunnels. Well, they actually make them to hunt. And well, I got a cricket right in here. Let's drop this thing in. And so after I dropped the cricket in, he started to walk around the top area, but little did he know the vinegaroon was right under his feet, waiting in the burrow for food to walk in. And a little bit later, the cricket did just that. He started squeezing through the opening that was dug out the night before, and he went in deep enough to where the vinegaroon was sitting. I know it got super foggy in here when I brought it to my recording area, so it's kind of hard to see, but the vinegaroon started to attack the cricket, and he started to chase him out the burrow. The cricket tried to escape, but it was no use because the claws of the vinegaroon are just too strong. And I know you guys can't really see it well. I went and bought 5 big leeches. Yup, leeches usually live in the wild and grab onto unsuspecting prey to basically just suck the blood out of them. Well, since I have 5 of these leeches and they're in captivity, it's gonna allow me to get some insane time-lapse footage of them sucking the life out of a food object as the leeches get bigger. It should be pretty cool. Now, if you watch my video about keeping pet leeches, you'd know they basically like to spend all their time under the water, so that's why I'll be setting up an aquarium for this test. And then quickly, I'm just gonna fill up this tank with this so I can go ahead and put the leeches inside so we can get this test started. So yeah, I put each of these 5 leeches inside and I put a lid on top so they didn't escape. And immediately you can kind of just see how they all just start swimming around under the water, just sort of like how snakes do. Yeah, it's kind of weird honestly, but once they want to stop swimming, they'll go up to the glass and just grab onto it using the end of their bodies basically as a suction cup. It's actually pretty cool. Anyways, for the food I'll be feeding these guys, it's this piece of beef liver. Well, alright, why don't we just drop this slimy nastiness into here and see how long it takes for these leeches to get absolutely massive. And so step 1 was to actually get the leeches to bite onto this piece of meat, which is pretty easy. You basically just pick up the piece of meat with tweezers and start bringing it up to the leeches' faces until they grab onto it. So yeah, I just went around and picked up all the leeches onto the meats. But if you couldn't tell, the water quality got super bad because of the beef liver, so I decided to actually let the leeches eat the beef liver out of the water, since in the wild, that's actually how they prefer to feast. And while a couple of the leeches kind of detached from the piece of meat and started to run away, 3 of the leeches actually did stay on it so I could watch as they started to eat. You can literally see them contract their throats in and out as they basically use their teeth to grind the meat up, and then they suck it up like a smoothie up into their bodies. But things actually did not go to plan, because out of nowhere, this leech decided to detach from the piece of meat, and then he just started to slither away randomly. Then the other 2 leeches decided to detach too, and this guy decided to just burrow into the piece of meat, and this one just slithered away. Hey, at least we got to watch him eat for a little bit, but this is why I love time lapses. You just capture random interesting stuff like this. It didn't take them very long for them to start swarming this piece of dog food. You see, these are dog treats that I buy for my dog Jet, and they're made out of the top quality real beef ingredients, which of course Jet loves, but that also explains why these flesh-eating beetle larvae were also loving it. Anyways, it was pretty crazy how after just a few of these beetles latched onto the dog food, pretty much all of the beetles soon followed behind, until literally this piece of dog food was literally like just not a piece of dog food anymore. This is just a living piece of flesh-eating beetle at this point. Yeah, there's just so many on here. Oh my gosh, bro, what? These guys are so hungry. So yeah, I shook them all off, because if you remember, the main reason I got these beetles is because I actually want to see if they could turn an animal into a skeleton by just eating its flesh. And I don't want them to get filled up on this, but anyways, considering this piece of dog food was only in there for like 10 minutes, the beetles made a pretty decent amount of progress by chewing a bunch of tiny little chunks out of it. Anyways, for the main course I'm feeding these guys, I've got a duck head. Yeah, and we're gonna see if they can turn it into a white duck skull. But yeah, don't worry guys, I didn't do this to the duck. I actually just bought this at the pet store. Apparently they're dog food. Jack, can you give this a taste test? You think the flesh-eating beetles, you think they're gonna like it? Yeah, he's licking it. I think he likes it. So since it passes the Jet taste test, I wasted no time to put this into our tank. Let's see what these bugs do. Now, immediately things were pretty interesting, because many of the beetles, of course, were drawn to this nasty duck head, and pretty much all of the beetles started to gather at the base of the head. These guys were all slowly chewing away at the fur of this duck head, and it was cool because you could gradually see the group of flesh-eating beetles move up along the side of the duck head, and they were even eating it so much that they ended up knocking it over. Eventually, it was so nasty because the beetles had just completely swarmed the head and were crawling in and out different parts of it, like the hole in the beak. And after leaving this in here for a full 24 hours, you can just see how much they chewed through all the fur and just how nasty this is. But the real damage was done on the bottom of the skull, where it was completely chewed through. These are the literal bones of the duck skull, and this is just straight up so disgusting. This looks like a zombie duck head at this point.
Oh my gosh, this smells so bad, you guys don't even know. But dang, check this out. I'm actually kind of surprised this didn't just like turn a completely white skull kind of color, because I know these beetles sometimes do that, but I guess it makes sense. This is just kind of dog food, but I would call it a success. I mean, look at how destroyed this thing is. Anyways, so these guys will definitely make a very interesting addition to my pet collection. You heard that right, flesh-eating beetles, and they're called that because they're beetles that eat flesh. And well, let me show you why that is so cool.
Now, as you can see, there's some actual flesh-eating beetles in here, but most of the things in here are still in their larva stage, which means they're actually even more hungry than usual. And you see, these insects are cool because they can literally just eat the flesh off of animals to the point where they only leave the skeleton bones behind. So yeah, I'm gonna try and record a time lapse of that.
And I've got thousands of flesh-eating beetles in here to the point if I put my finger in there, it would probably turn into a skeleton. Actually, you know what? I wonder what would happen if I put a piece of dog food in there. Hey, I guess let me get a quick time lapse real quick.
So I put the dog food in, and oh guys, all I'll say is things are about to get interesting with these beetles. But as you could probably imagine, buying all these crazy bugs and worms is extremely expensive. I've scoured the internet for the craziest insect videos I could find. Beetles painting pictures, insane slow motions, and so much more. Anyways, when some dude left a piece of cheesecake out near his ant colony. And well, let's just say the ants didn't waste any time to absolutely start decimating it. If this doesn't show why you shouldn't leave food out, then I don't know what does. Dang. It shows this insane time-lapse footage of leafcutter ants doing their signature thing. Cutting leaves. In it, you can see how they all work together over time, cutting out these circular pieces to absolutely decimate this leaf till it's no more. The scientists that filmed it even got this super close-up footage showing exactly how their mandibles cut through the leaves, showing how it works almost super similar to how scissors work. It's crazy how some animals in nature have evolved to do this. But the coolest thing is how we got this footage that shows while a leaf might just start with one ant cutting it, that one ant will take her leaf back to the colony and let all the other workers know where that leaf is. So that way they can all swarm it and basically speed run to chop the whole thing up. Yeah, it's super cool how these guys work as a team. A kid decided for some reason it'd be a good idea to get pet bed bugs. Yes, like the things that bite you when you sleep. He literally built them a natural standing enclosure and made a mini mattress for them to sleep under. And yeah, since they were his pet, he had to feed them. So he let them crawl on his arm and suck his blood. Yeah, if you couldn't already tell, this isn't just some random kid. I had to get a spot on the craziest insect videos, because yeah, I had to be the first person to get pet bed bugs. But by the way, guys, my mom made me get rid of them for some reason. I don't know why.
Mom, I was just wondering why you made me get rid of the pet bed bugs.
Because we don't want those in the house.
The pet bed bugs?
Yes, absolutely.
I thought they were cute.
No, they'll be biting us, and we had to get rid of them.
On right away, but you see this dangling thing? This is all ants. And it's like a bajillion ants all joined together, starting up at the corner of this roof, spanning all the way down. You can see so many ants grabbing onto each other's bodies to make a literal ant bridge. And on top of the bridge, you can see more ants just walking around on top of it, doing stuff like carrying eggs and food. And this bridge goes all the way down, curves back up, and connects to a wasp nest. Yep, these ants are so genius, they built this bridge to straight up attack a wasp nest, and now they can probably feed their colony for days. Wow. And wait a second, if these ants can just stand on the roof here, why did they just walk from here to here? Are you guys sure this giant bridge was necessary? Okay, anyways, it's still crazy. Some paint brushes. And surprisingly, they actually took a hold of them perfectly. And yeah, they literally just started to walk around, dragging the edge of the paintbrush along the canvas, making a beautiful work of art. I mean, they weren't perfect, and they did paint a little bit on his table, but for the most part, they stuck to the canvas. He even let the beetles choose the colors they wanted to paint with, so yeah, you could say the beetles had full artistic control, and by the end, this is what
what it looked like. Now this is modern art. This could easily sell to some art museum for an insane amount of money, because like the fact that beetles painted this makes it so cool. I'm being so serious. Insect House, the guy that made this video, you could like actually reach out to some art museums and actually sell this thing for like $1 million. I've seen some crazy modern art sell for insane amounts of money. Actually do it, bro. I'm being serious. A bunch of butterflies flying around and put his pet mantises in front of it. And yeah, I guess the mantises must have been hungry, because you can tell this guy was absolutely locked in, ducking and weaving and lining up the perfect shot to attack the butterflies. But yeah, he was very confused why he couldn't grab it. He was trying multiple times. Then there was this mantis that was legit staring at the screen for a minute before he made his first attack. But yeah, for him it was no different. He couldn't really grab the butterflies either. First we got iPad kids, now we got iPad mantises. Really, bro? What's next? iPad frogs? Wait a second, that already exists. Okay. This is a beetle grub, and this is gonna show the process of how they grow up into a beetle over time. Oh, by the way, this is not a normal beetle species. This is the largest beetle species in the world, a Hercules beetle. And as the time goes on, you can see even just this grub starts getting much larger than what a normal fully grown beetle would be. And after literally over a year, this massive creature starts to go into its pupa stage, where you can see exactly how it transforms from a worm creature into a beetle. First, you can see the legs starting to grow, then the giant horns start to emerge from the head that the species have, and boom, after a long 500 days, the beetle emerges from its pupa, and yeah, that's how long it takes for one of these beauties to be born. By the way, it's so cool to watch these guys fly. This is not an edited sound or anything. It actually sounds like a literal helicopter when their wings are flapping. Is in this footage, a guy put out this red sugar water and then let his ants loose near it. Obviously, ants are super attracted to sugar, so they started to swarm it. But the thing that's so interesting about these ants is that they're a special kind of species that can store extra liquid inside their abdomen. Yep, you heard that right, and you can see it super clearly in this footage. As this ant sucks up the sugar water, his abdomen gets way larger and way more red, and it's actually insane to see. But by far the coolest thing to see is this footage of one of the bigger ants who was full of sugar water going up to this empty ant and literally feeding it some of its sugar water. You can see this one's abdomen getting smaller as this one's gets bigger. And yeah, it's kind of nasty how they just regurgitate the food into each other's mouths, but they're ants. I don't really think they care. This is it. And actually, this is a massive locust, so it's pretty cool to see a mantis eat this whole thing, since it's pretty much as big as him. But first, the mantis starts devouring its head with its alien mouth, then it works its way down the body. And yeah, the mantis basically takes no breaks while eating. The endurance is actually pretty dang impressive. And by the end, there was nothing but scraps on the floor, and the mantis's belly was pretty dang big, which makes sense. He just ate a lot. You might be thinking, bruh, TerraGreen, where's the insect? Well, check this out. These beans can quite literally jump, and that's because there's an insect inside of them. In fact, a larva of a moth is inside of these beans. And many larvae like this species have learned to jump by flinging the end of their tail against the ground. And when you look very closely at this bean, you can see the little larva inside flinging himself up against the top of the bean to make enough momentum to send it flying into the air. And in this time-lapse footage, you can see how they actually move a pretty good amount over the course of a few hours. But yeah, after about half a year inside of one of these beans, they turn into a moth that looks kind of like this. They show a ton of cool bugs crawling around on this guy's hand, like orchid mantises and leaf insects, which are super cool because they look like leaves, obviously. The main reason I'm showing you this is because this guy also lets other stuff crawl on him, like these insanely creepy creatures. Yeah, even I, TerraGreen, would not let those crawl on me. What the heck even are those? But yeah, he also lets stuff go on his face, like this giant moth, dang, and a Hercules beetle from earlier, which, like, dang bro, you gotta be careful with. That giant horn could easily poke your eye out. But actually, respect to you for keeping all these insanely cool insects. It's actually so cool. Roaches, right? Like, they're just some chill little insects. Well, I filmed this video that shows how they're born. And yeah, this isn't a clam or anything. This is an egg sac. And yeah, that's a ton of roaches coming out. Nah. Basically, when the mom roaches are ready to have babies, they develop their egg sacs in the back of their body, which you can see right here and here. And a day before they hatch, they drop them on the ground. And basically, each one of these slits in the egg sac is a baby roach that's about to hatch. And yeah, literally all at the same time, you can see the bottom of it starts to slowly expand. And these little white worm things start to poke out. And these are all the new roaches that are now born, and they're gonna go run around and find homes for themselves. Dang, sorry if you're eating, but to be fair, if you're eating, you probably would have clicked off the video by now. But whether you have or haven't, it's actually pretty interesting because this scientist caught an extreme close-up video exactly of how it works. Basically, he got an ant stinger right up to a thin layer of wax paper and let it pierce through it. And right as it pierces through, you can literally see droplets of venom drip off the end of the stinger. So yeah, every time you're stung by an ant in the wild on an extremely tiny scale, this is exactly what's happening under your skin. And the craziest thing is how thin these stingers are, because here they are next to a human hair. Yeah, the tip of the stinger is like half of the width of the hair. That is insanely thin, which is pretty cool to see because like I didn't even realize, but yeah, snails literally hatch with their shell. I don't know why I didn't really think to realize that, but yeah, they do. But the real reason I'm showing you this is because this is the most insane snail species of all time. Because this video also shows what happens over the months as this snail species grows up. It literally keeps getting larger and larger and larger, bigger than any snail species you've probably ever seen before, until after 3 years it is fully grown. And oh yeah, this is a giant African land snail, the largest snail in the entire world. And yeah, they are absolutely insane. The fact that this is bigger than a hand is like, what? I mean, what? It all starts when the queen ants and the male ants are mating, which is shown in this video. This is the queen ant and this is the male. And you can see exactly how much more massive the queens are than the males. And it's actually kind of funny because oftentimes many males will latch onto the same female all at the same time and try and mate at the same time. And sometimes the female will even try and fly while this is all happening, which doesn't exactly work very well with all that extra weight weighing her down. Yet somehow the males manage to stay clinging on.
Terrariums are an awesome way to bring a chunk of an ecosystem into your room, but they can get extremely expensive. That's why today I'm gonna build the best $10 terrarium and the best $1,000 terrarium to figure out if you actually need to go into debt to create one. And to start off, and oh yeah, these are more in my budget. Okay, this one might work well. 3 sort of new jars. They're apparently in excellent condition, but one has a giant crack in it. I don't know if that's excellent. Yeah, I mean, I could probably make like leaf scott out of this and stuff. I don't know. Let me just go buy it. Okay, so I met up with the guy and gave him the $5 bill, you know. And of course, now I got the jars. Oh, that did not sound good. And because I had multiple jars, I got the idea to build a different biome in each one. Like, what if in this one I built a forest, this one I built a desert, and then in this one I built a lake? I mean, if I built a lake, it'd be more of an aquarium than a terrarium, but whatever. So that's what I planned on doing. And then at the end, I'd be able to compare the $10 biomes with the $1,000 ecosystem to see which was better. Okay, so I'm gonna create this first jar into a forest, and to do that I'm gonna need some basic materials like dirt, wood, rocks, and plants. The problem is though that we only have $5 to turn all of these jars into terrariums, and literally just a bag of dirt is over $10. Ooh, that's not good. But thankfully for me, dirt is actually free if we just, you know, walk outside. Oh yeah, look at this quality dirt right here. Let me just, you know, dig this up. All right, the dirt has been acquired. But before putting it in, I have to make a drainage layer in this jar first because that's just what terrariums need. But thankfully, that can be done easily again by just walking outside and picking up some rocks. All right, I put the rocks in, but now typically you'd use some sort of material like this window screen to separate the drainage layer from the substrate. But of course, window screen is definitely not in our budget, so we're gonna have to think of another alternative. So I did some searching around outside, hoping I could find something. Okay, I guess there's some plastic here. Wait, this could actually work. Has some like Chinese on it. I don't know what this says, but okay, wait, let me see if I can use this. And as the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's terrarium substrate separator. I poked some holes in the plastic to allow water to pass through, and that let me put the dirt on top. And there we go, the base of the forest terrarium is finished. But obviously this is not a forest, it's just dirt. So in order to make it a forest, I needed to add in some decorations, which just meant I had to go outside again and pick up more stuff. Yeah, that's kind of what this entire forest build is. As you can see, we got all sorts of supplies, which is gonna allow me to customize my terrarium to my artistic liking. And wait, look at this plant here. The roots on this one looks like it's growing some sort of vegetable or something. Wait, is this like a radish or a green onion? Wait, does it taste like one? Oh, it does not taste like one. Anyways, I put the decorations in the build. All right, now time for the grand reveal of this forest. Let's move this down and
Oh yeah, look at this. Okay, maybe it's not that cool, but at least it looks pretty good for being basically free. Now, there's just one more thing to do to finish this little forest, and that's to add some life into it. Now, it'd be cool to add like a frog or something in here, but yeah, this is probably not big enough for a frog, so I'm gonna have to settle for something I find outside again. Now, to be honest, I'll just settle for like an earthworm or something. Oh, wait, I see something right there. Wait, do you see that? Oh! Wait, bro, there's a cricket. Okay, wait, this is even better than a worm. So I picked up the cricket and put him into his new home. Alright, and the cricket is in there. Can you see it in there? It's kind of hard to see, but it's right there. Bruh. The forest was now complete, and to finish off the $10 builds, I still needed to make the desert and a lake, which will be a lot more interesting to build, since I won't be able to just find the materials. And as you know, the forest build is already done, so we're moving on to the desert build now. Now for the drainage layer of this, we can do the same thing we did in the forest, and just go get some rocks. But now this is where things get tricky, because I can't really just go outside and get sand, because I basically live in the middle of not a desert. You know, there's trees outside and stuff. So that means the only way I can get some sand is if I buy it. I don't know if there's actually gonna be any sand under $5 that I could buy. Let me just search it up anyways, and oh, that's not good. And wait, $2 for sand. Oh my gosh, it's not even lying. $3 for sand. Okay, that is actually so good. I can actually get some sand now. Well, I guess let me go to Betco. I'll be there soon. Thankfully, it was still in stock when I got there, so I bought that, and then I poured it in the jar. Now, similar to the forest terrarium that we built earlier, we're gonna need plants for this desert one. Now, ideally, we get a nice cactus in this thing. I think that'd look pretty cool. The only problem is, as you know, our budget is lacking a little bit. Okay, well, maybe there's a chance I can buy a cactus for super cheap. Cactus near me. And yeah, $1,000, $200 for a cactus. Wait, there's actually one for $1. Wait, what? Okay, wait, this is actually good. I can buy a cactus for $1. That fits in our budget. It's at this store called Michael's. I've never even heard of that, but $1. I guess I'm going to Michael's. So I went there, and they had some absolutely fantastical cacti to choose from. So I got myself this. This massive cactus was only $1. Dang, I've like literally never heard of Michael's. There was no cars in the parking lot. Guys, you need to go to Michael's. They got some fantastical deals there. All right, let's get this in here. I'm gonna dig out a little hole with my golden spoon. Don't ask why it's golden. And so I added the cactus in, and the desert build was now complete. But to fully finish the terrarium, I once again needed to add life into it. And since I wouldn't be able to buy anything with my 71-cent budget, I got the idea to put a worm in there from outside to act as a sandworm. Because, you know, I didn't really have any other options. All right, let's put the sandworm in his home, and there we go. The desert build is now finished. I hope you enjoy your new life, little boy. Huh? Okay, so I was planning on moving straight to building the lake right after this. But you remember how I got this cactus at Michael's? Or, Michelle? I don't remember what it was called, but you know how I got this cactus? The first two terrariums are done. Now we just gotta focus on this last one, which of course is gonna be the lake. Now, I bet some of you have probably been wondering, how on earth am I gonna turn this into a lake? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. Let me show you how we're gonna do it. We're just gonna take this, we're gonna take it out to my car, buckle it in, and drive. Now, you see, I figured the best way to make a lake terrarium is to just go to an actual lake and scoop up the sand and water. That way, I wouldn't have to worry about our lack of money. Alright, I've made it. I mean, it's not a lake, it's a river, but no, it's gonna have to do. This is very embarrassing. I really hope someone doesn't see me trying to pick up this water and put it in my jar. Okay, I have surveyed around me. No one's near me. I have time to get this water, baby. Give me this water. So I collected all the water I needed and also scooped up some of the dirt so I could bring it home. So I added everything in, and the lake ended up looking like this. Yeah, not very appealing. Well, there wasn't much I could do. So anyways, I needed to add life into it. And just recently they had babies. So I'm just gonna yoink this guy and put him into his new home. Do you even see it in there? It's there, I think. Wait, no, I think it's there. I can't even tell where it is. I think it might be dead. The $10 builds were all completely finished, but don't leave yet, as now I'm adding the most coolest, epicest for my $1,000 terrarium just arrived. So I'm gonna start building that first. Okay, this is pretty heavy, but I think I got it. There we go. That is the box, you know? So let me open this up, and I swear, if this thing is not already put together, I'm gonna be very mad, because I do not want to build this from scratch. Oh no, I don't think this is put together. Yeah, it's definitely not. There's just glass panes here. Okay, there goes 2 hours probably.
2 hours later.
And along with the tank, I also did buy a bunch of supplies, about $395.87 worth of supplies, which are right here. But to start off the build, we basically got to get rid of all of this stuff, so Ooh. Because the first step for building this terrarium is to put this little water filter chamber thing that I built into it. For this $1,000 build, I'm going all out, and I'm making an entire chunk of the rainforest with a working river running through it. And this will let me filter the water and allow fish to live in there. So to build this thing, I first sprayed the entire back of the glass with some silicone, which will allow me to put tree branches sticking out on it. To keep the wood in place, I used some spray foam to do some more spraying. And finally, I stuck a bunch of dirt all along the back so it looked more natural. All right, look at this thing. This thing is actually enormous. This is like as tall as me. And don't worry about this being ugly right now, because later on, I'm gonna add a ton of plants here to make this actually look good. But for now, we're gonna focus on the floor area, because right now, I'm gonna make this into a river. To make it, I first glued in a piece of foam to easily separate the land and water areas. Then I got a ton of rocks and wood to create a natural looking underwater environment, because you know, there's usually rocks and wood underwater. All right, there we go. That is done now. So let's finish that underwater area look and add some sand in, because you know, you need sand to make an underwater section. Okay, now that the floor and the water portion's done, let's get to the floor and the land portion. For this, I'm gonna be mostly using these Leica balls. Honestly, these kind of look like cocoa pebbles, but I think I learned my lesson. Now, to complete this floor area, I need to put a layer of substrate on top of it. But before doing that, I used this pump to do some plumbing and create a tube that will allow the river to actually have a working water flow. Then finally, I added the dirt on top to finish the floor area. All right, now there's just 2 more things to finish this build. 1 to add water, and 2 to add plants. And thankfully I can do that first one pretty quickly, just like this. So now I want to test if the water flow actually works to see if we can actually turn this into a river. All right, so let me plug this thing in, and this better work. I spent like the past 2 hours doing this, and oh, okay, so it's working, but the water flow is very extreme. That's kind of messing up the sand. Okay, this is just making the water very dirty right now. Can you stop doing that? So to fix the issue, I got some tape to try and make the end of the tube more narrow. Oh, nah. Oh, nope, that is not working. Oh, no. Taping it does not work. Oh my god. Now in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have been doing that right next to the power strip, but thankfully my house didn't explode. Anyways, eventually I got the water flow working, and the $1,000 terrarium was starting to come together pretty nicely. Pretty much all the plants we're gonna need for this $1,000 build for a pretty good price. It barely even made a dent in our budget. So I'm gonna go and put these in right now, I guess. And oh shoot. Oh, that is not good. While I was putting all that spray foam on the back, I was supposed to also put these little plant pots there, but I forgot, so this is gonna be a lot harder to put the plants in the bin. But thankfully, I'm a genius, and I used my hot glue gun to glue all the plant pots on the back of the wall. Then I was able to put all the plants in the pots. I even got some aquatic plants to put in the water area to fully round off everything in this $1,000 build. Now, some people may say these very obviously black pots put all around the terrarium is ugly, and well, to those people, I say that you are probably right. This is pretty ugly, but I guess this is the downside of the $1,000 build. It's too complex to make. Well, anyways, to complete this terrarium, I needed to add life into it, which I was gonna do by adding in fish. Super cool life into the $1,000 build. Guppies. Okay, to you, maybe they're not the coolest fish ever, but to me, I mean, they look pretty cool. They got spots and fins and, okay, you know, let's just add them in. So I put some of this API quick start bacteria in, so it would be safe to add the fish whilst the cycling process took place. And immediately, you could tell they absolutely loved their new home. Well, I can't say that they loved it for sure, but I mean, they were swimming around and stuff, so they probably did. I even turned on the river flow to see how they would react. Most of them seemed pretty annoyed, but one of them kept playing around in it and flinging himself around the river. The $1,000 terrarium and $10 terrariums are now all finished. Are the $10 terrariums better, or is the $1,000 terrarium better? And well, the answer is pretty obvious. The $1,000 terrarium is better. But you do gotta remember, this is literally $1,000. Like, literally, you could replace this with a used car, or, okay, maybe not a car, but 2 PS5s, a gaming computer, literally $1,000. These are the most exotic insects in the world, and I have 7 of them that I'll be building homes for and showcasing their coolest abilities. To find the insect in the frame, let's go. And did you find it? Well, probably not, because this insect actually has a very special disguise. Scattered around here is a species of insect called Philium philippinicums, commonly known as leaf insects.
Anyways, I don't have much to say about these guys. I just think it's pretty funny how over millions of years they've evolved to look like a leaf. Bruh. I mean, they could have evolved to have huge teeth and claws and stingers, but no. They evolved to look like a leaf. Now for their home, I got this glass terrarium that's a bit bigger since we have 4 of these bad boys, which will all eventually grow to be about 5 times as big, so I needed a lot of space. I wanted to make this look like a plains biome, so I got some artificial grass, and I also put a bunch of tree branches all around the tank, so the leaf insects could pretend to be leaves, just like they were born to do. Welcome to your new home, boys. I hope you like it. Or girls. I don't know if they're boys or girls. Most of the little leaves were just walking around and enjoying themselves, but a couple of the leaf insects started praising to the gods or something by raising their hands in the air and doing some sort of ritual. Anyways, these guys' diet consists mostly of themselves. And by that, I mean they eat leaves. So yeah, they're basically cannibals. But their absolute favorite food is blackberries. So of course, I put some of those around the tank. Well, this is pretty good. I think these leaves are gonna live a fantastical life in here. Now this is straight up an exotic insect. I mean, it literally looks like it's from the future. This species has some of the largest mandibles out of any beetle species. And honestly, those big sharp mandibles make me too scared to pick it up. So instead, I just picked it up with this plastic lid. For its enclosure, I'm using this 14 by 8 inch tank. And watch this, when I clap my hands in front of the terrarium, it's gonna be instantly built. 3, 2, 1, boom! Now that's a super clean transition. As you can see, there's tons of stuff in here like bark and sphagnum moss that will be perfect for the beetle to hide under. And speaking of the beetle, I of course need to give this guy a name. And since, you know, it's the best and coolest beetle ever, I'm gonna name him Paul McCartney. Because, you know, I just feel like that name fits him pretty well. You know, he looks like a Paul. Anyways, despite Paul having these absolutely massive mandibles, he doesn't even use them to eat prey because he's a boring herbivore. So to feed him, I just got an orange and put it inside. I also put some of this beetle jelly because I think they like eating this too. But Paul is a male beetle and he looks pretty lonely if I'm being honest. So I also got this female of the same species that is honestly a lot uglier than Paul because she doesn't even have those cool mandibles, but I put her in anyways and soon she started to wander around. Eventually, she even climbed onto Paul's back while he was sleeping, which seemed to annoy him and he got up and walked away. Not a great start to these beetles' relationship, but I'm sure Paul and this new female will eventually enjoy their home together and might even have little beetle babies. I'm gonna build this enclosure just like this, and as you can see, I built a nice little dirt enclosure with wood and moss. So now, can you guess what I'm gonna put in here based off of the enclosure? Your options are A, a shark, B, a dog, or C, an earthworm. The answer is... if you guessed shark, you were actually wrong. The actual answer is none of these. It's D, a millipede. And yeah, technically, once again, this isn't an insect, but don't worry about it. This species in specific is a pink-toed millipede, which to be honest, I don't know why it's called that because its toes are not pink. I mean, it doesn't even have toes. If anything, it should be called a orange leg millipede, but whatever. Despite it being kind of disgusting looking, I built up enough courage to pick it up onto my arm and move it into its enclosure.
Oh, nah, this feels so weird crawling on me. What the heck? I swear this is actually like stinging me right now. What the heck? This feels so weird. Yeah, get off of me. Ugh.
You see, millipedes have hundreds of legs, which helps them grip onto stuff and allows them to even walk upside down. Okay, maybe it's not that cool. Now, unfortunately for this video, millipedes are the most boring eaters ever, and basically just only eat decaying matter. So I'm just gonna put some blackberries in here and, yeah, call it a day. Enjoy your home, little guy. These are banded diving beetles. And despite looking, kinda lame, they are actually carnivorous killers that will eat prey way bigger than themselves. For its tank, I got this 10-gallon aquarium, and basically, I'm just gonna fill it up with substrate, aquatic plants, and finally some water. Now the best things about these guys is that they don't even need a water filter since they are much less affected by variability in nitrogen or phosphorus concentration because they do not breathe. So yeah, let's put them in. The little beetles were shy to come out at first, but eventually the tank was swarming with all 7 of them. The way they swim is honestly just really cool because they got these little legs and stuff that they propel themselves with, which I guess is just kind of normal and not that cool, but now I want to
show you guys how these beetles eat prey. So to do that, I got some mealworms and dropped them in the water. After a few minutes, amazingly, a beetle stumbled across a worm. So he grabbed it with his legs and pulled it all the way up to the surface of the water. When he got there, he started to absolutely devour the mealworm by sucking the life out of it. A couple more of the aquatic beetles found some more mealworms, so soon enough, the entire tank was feeding on these guys. The next day, I came back to find these little lifeless mealworm exoskeletons laying around the floor. Clearly, the beetles had enjoyed their meals. Asian mantis. Despite looking absolutely majestic, this is secretly a monster that devours its prey while it's still alive. But to be able to see that, I need to recreate her natural environment in this little enclosure. So I built it up with all sorts of stuff like bark and moss, and soon enough, it was complete and ready for the mantis. Now, mantises actually have these little sharp spikes all over their legs, which allows them to grip onto very smooth surfaces like this glass. And because this mantis is so beautiful, I'm gonna name her something beautiful to match. So everyone, please say hello to Birchroot. But Birchroot wasn't the only thing alive in this enclosure, as just earlier I had put a couple crickets inside. Immediately after, Birchroot sensed them and rushed in towards the prey with killer instincts. Seconds later, the cricket was now getting crushed by Birchroot's claws and ripped apart by her alien mouth. But whilst the mantis was enjoying her meal, another cricket walked by. So she snatched that up and started to eat 2 crickets at once. Clearly, she was pretty hungry. Now, Birchroot has got to be one of the coolest insects I've ever seen. Like, seriously, she looks like King Kong right now. Apex predator. Not only does this insect have fangs, but he also injects a potent venom into anything it bites. Everyone say hello to one of my jumping spiders. Now, yes, technically by definition, this isn't an insect, but by my definition of an insect, it is. So, don't comment about it. Now, I'm not gonna pick up this guy with my hands because they're super fast and he'd probably just jump off my hand and go hide under the couch or something, and I don't want that. So I'm just gonna speed run his new home real quick with tons of places for him to jump around, and boom. Let's get this little guy into here. These spiders are actually one of the coolest species because most of them have the ability to eat prey up to 3 times their own size. So of course I had to challenge my jumping spider by dropping in a few pretty decently sized crickets. Immediately the jumping spider hit on this piece of wood, seemingly waiting for the perfect moment to strike a cricket. But the funny thing was that he never actually did any attacking. If anything, the jumping spider was actually afraid of the crickets because every time he saw one, he got startled and slowly walked backwards. It was actually pretty funny. So to feed him, I got a couple smaller crickets and put those inside hoping he would eat those, but it kind of still seemed like he was scared of those as well. Well, I guess this guy's just not hungry right now, so in the future, if he still doesn't eat any crickets, I'll try feeding him some smaller worms and stuff. But for now, let's move on. Well, this is just a box, but inside of it, the cow killer awaits. Now, the actual name of this is a velvet ant, but the legend has it that its sting is strong enough to kill a literal cow, hence why people call it the cow killer, and I'm about to have it crawl on my bare skin. But before that, I need to have its enclosure finished, so I have a place to, put it so it's not just stuck crawling on my arm. These guys live in the deserts and the wild, so I'm gonna quickly recreate that here by doing another super cool transition. Watch this. As I squeeze my hands in, the desert magically appears. Wow. Okay, now that's actually super cool transition. That deserves a subscribe. Seriously, subscribe. Scroll down right now and click subscribe. Please, I am begging you. As you can see, I got a heat lamp to make this place nice and hot, and also lots of little places for the cow killer to hide under. Speaking of the cow killer, I should probably stop stalling and just get to opening it up. So I opened up the box, and apparently I accidentally bought a dead taxidermied cow killer and not a real alive one. So of course I went to buy an actual alive one online, and unfortunately I found out that you can only get one when they're in season through July to October. And since it's April right now, I found out that it's literally impossible to get a cow killer now. So yeah, sorry for sort of clickbaiting.